Welcome back to the Grow with Shea podcast. Today I am here with Michele. Michele, welcome.
Hi,
I'm
good
so
to be
glad.
here.
I'm so glad you're here. Will you just maybe introduce yourself a little bit to our friends who maybe haven't met you before?
Yeah, I'm Michele, like you said, and my Instagram handle is Gas by Granny, which means a gastric bypass granny. It's just shortened version of it. I'm 63. I had my gastric bypass at 62. After debating for many, many years and doing a lot of research, I jumped in with both feet and just went for it. And so, yeah, I'm a mom of 6 kids. I have 3 boys and 3 girls, and I have 11 grandchildren. I have 3 granddaughters and 8 grandsons. So the boys are out
Wow.
winning. And anyway, but yeah, I'm retired and just enjoying life right now.
I love it. I love it. If my handle was Gas by Shea, it would definitely mean something different than that for me. Do you get that question?
Yes. Yeah. For a long time, several people thought it was just because I was a gassy grandma, but and that's fine because as gastric bypass patients or weight loss surgery patients, we do have some pretty interesting gas issues.
Yes, I love it. No, I love it. It can mean whatever people interpret it to mean.
Exactly. Yep. That's
Well,
so true.
that's awesome. Man, so how long has it been since you've retired? How long have you been in retirement life?
Let's see, I retired in August of 2019, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in 2019.
Not
I had a pretty bad car accident at that time, and what my profession was very heavy lifting, heavy work, and so I could not do that anymore. And I had saved up enough for, with my 401 and my insurance for my long-term disability, that I just decided it was time I'd worked for nearly 30, well, actually probably longer than 30 years, because I got my first job when I was 13, but at this particular job, I'd almost worked there 30 years. So
wow.
It was time to move on, and it's been a good move.
That's awesome. What has retirement looked like for you? What's like your schedule? What do you typically do in retirement life?
Well, I'm actually really busy, so it's good that I am retired.
That's what I've heard, like with people,
Yeah.
family members that have retired. They're like, I don't know how I fit in a job before this because I'm busier now than I was before.
Yeah, exactly. Your priorities just change. So I have a brother that is not married, and so he had traumatic brain injury when he was younger, and now he's dealing with a lot of dementia issues. And he tried living alone and doing his thing, but he would forget to take his diabetes medicine, and I would find him passed out on the floor. And he lives so far away from me that it wasn't a good fit. And so just before the pandemic started, we put him in a assisted living, and it's been a good fit for him. It's good that they can take care of him and provide everything that he needs medically. So I'm pretty much in charge of making sure he gets all his doctor's appointments and things that he has going on. And then grandkids, boy, they keep you busy with all their activities. And it's been nice because it's afforded me to be able to go over and watch them when their parents had needed a break. So, it's been good that way.
That's awesome. I was talking with a physician that I work with, and he was telling me, he goes, Shea, I'm going to be moving positions. I'm going to be quitting. And he's worked at the healthcare system I work for like, I think 20 years or something. I'm like, where are you going? What are you talking about? He's like, I got promoted to grandpa. So his daughter is having a baby. And he's like, that's going to be my new job role. So that's what it sounds like you transitioned into.
Yeah, and it's a great position to transition to. I don't think there's anything more fun than being a grandparent. So
I love it.
Yeah.
what feels different about it? Like, or what do you enjoy and maybe not enjoy? I just have heard that people enjoy being grandparents more than parents. Have you found that to be true for you? And if so, how come?
Well, with parenting, I mean, it's hard. Every child you have comes with a different personality, and you got to be the hard, do this type mom or whatever. And I don't think you have as good a relationship maybe with your children as what you do with your grandchildren, because you can just be a fun grandma. You can go and take them shopping or do the fun things with them and not have to be the person who puts the rules on them. And everything goes out the window when my grandkids are with grandma and grandpa, and my kids have let me know that they're not too appreciative of it, but what are they going to do?
If they need your help, you're like, well, I'm helping you out, so I'm going to do it the way I want to.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying this podcast? I hope you are. If you want to watch this podcast ad-free, see behind-the-scenes footage, get discounts, and be part of a supportive community, join my Patreon. Memberships start at only $2 a month. Visit stan.store/growwithshay to sign up today. I'm excited to see you over there.
Yep. When they go on trips, I'm, there with them and watching their kiddos. And so if that's what they want, they're going to have to just deal with what I give them. So, but yeah, it's just fun. It's just fun to watch them grow up. And I've got very talented grandchildren. All of them have great talents and are just hardworking kids. All of them have gosh, they're just all so well-rounded, and they all do such a good job. So yeah, it's been fun.
The real question is, with 11 grandkids, how do you keep track of all the birthdays, all the stuff going on? That's what I always like. I'm far from being a grandma because I don't even have kids yet, but that's what I think about, of like, I'm going to have to get organized, like when you have that many to keep track of.
It is really hard. I have to put it in my phone. And for a while, I did have a visible calendar, and I know that you put one, and I'm definitely going back to visible calendar, because there's been a couple of times I've forgotten important things, and I'm just like, how did I forget that? But somehow it didn't save in my phone, and it's embarrassing to forget someone's birthday, or and so you have to make up for it quite a bit. But yeah, you just have to really be on top of it and make sure you're remembering. Now, it's not bad for me, but my in-laws, they had 62 grandchildren.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yes, they had a very large family, and each child that they had 10 children, and each of them had very large families. And so they had a lot, but they weren't a very, maybe as active grandparent as what I have been. Their generation maybe wasn't so much into it, but so maybe a little different for them, aspect wise. But I try to be very active in their lives and keep up with things. So
yeah. At that point, if I had 62 grandchildren, I would be like, I love you all. I only remember part of your names. It's not because I don't love you. There's just a lot of you. Like, let's just get together once a year, and I'll give all of your presents then, and we'll just get it done at that point. That's, I think, my approach with that.
Yeah. They pretty much didn't give presents. They were, I think my kids got birthday cards. I can't remember for sure, but yeah, they just weren't as, and I'm sure it was overwhelming to them. They were older, and so, in fact, my mother-in-law was a stepmother-in-law. She didn't have children of her own, and so to walk in this big family, I'm sure it was way overwhelming for her. She just walked into a big family, but she did a great job, as far as trying to do her best and what she had. So, yeah.
I love it. Well, as you kind of like reflect on you're 63, I'm 28. Where were you like when you were in your late 20s, and like, what are some of the things that stand out to you in your life in that season of life?
when I was in my late 20s, I had my last baby, my number 6, at 27.
Wow.
So I had 6 children from the ages 10 and under. So
wow.
I was a very, very busy mom, a very overwhelmed mom. But I've said this many times before, I have the best kids. I have really good kids. They were easy to raise. You know, as they got older into teenage years, they were a little wild, a couple of them. But for the most part, I just had really wonderful children, and I was very blessed to have those. What I reflect on is being present. And it doesn't always matter to do fancy things and go out for, you know, big parties or to take them to big places. And some of the memories that my kids have had were just little things. They weren't the big things, they were little things. And so I would just say, be present for them, be there, be there to talk to them and be approachable. But yeah, it was a hard time of life, but yet a good time at the same time. So yeah, just really good things, and just always be there to make sure you like validate them, and that nothing is ever really wrong. It's just how you perceive things. And things can be good, they can be bad, but it's how we react to it that makes it what it can really be. So
yeah. Do you, since you had your kiddos earlier on in life, do you feel like now you're kind of getting to live not like your early 20s, but like just more of a season of like freedom, free time? Like what has that felt like, or has it felt that way, or does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. In fact, I went to lunch with some friends today, and we were talking about that. And it's like, now that we're both, you know, like we're retired, we have time to do things that, and money to do the things that we didn't have back then. You know, we were poor, and we didn't do a lot. And so now it's kind of like I'm dating my husband kind of again. We get to go off. We don't have any responsibilities. You know, we can just, if we want to go somewhere, we hop in the car and go. And so in that retrospect, yes, it's been fun, but it's also, you change over the years, and you have different, I don't know if it's different tastes, or if you want to just have different goals or things you want to accomplish. And sometimes your mate isn't always on board with that, but we try to compromise and, you know, and do a little bit of what we both want to do. And he's more compromising than I am.
At least you're honest about that.
Oh yeah. I kind of tend to rule. I think it's because I'm more outgoing and I'm willing to do more things than what he is willing to do. He's very reserved. And so when I say I want to do certain things, he's, you know, kind of apprehensive, but in the end, he'll be like, okay, you know, let's just go, because you're not going to be happy if I don't do it. So we kind of compromise that way. It's like, yep, I'm going to get my way. So
yeah. I just had Dylan, my husband, on my podcast just yesterday. Actually, we recorded it, and we were just kind of reflecting on our journeys, because we've been together since we were 15 and 16 years old, and just kind of talking about like things that we would have done differently, knowing what we know now, and just kind of reflecting on that. But that's one thing he said, is that he said, you know, when we got married, when we were 19 and 21, it's like we had no idea what kind of change and growth we would have. And there's such a big growth period, you know, between when we were 19, 21 and now we're 27, 28. And you and your husband have been together for, I can't remember how many years. You said a long time, though, I remember.
45 years.
45 years.
Yeah,
so that's 40, a lot.
46 if you count. Yeah, 46 if you count our year of dating, and then we got married quite quickly. So
yeah.
So
there's been a lot. Yeah, there's been a lot of change and stuff within that time, I bet. Are there any like chunks of time for you that stand out of like, wow, we really changed a lot in, you know, these years of marriage, or these were like really big years in our growth and development? Or do you see it differently than that?
Yeah, I can see where there was, times of change. I think and I think everybody kind of goes through this, where one partner is stronger than the other, or, one's weaker. And I think, as far as religion, I think has played a big part in our marriage, where we belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is more commonly known as Mormon. And definitely, like, we have had, my husband's always been really strong, in our religion, and I've been strong at times, and then there's times when I'm not as strong. And so I think it's important to always remember where the other person's coming from, and not place too much into it, because sometimes if you, I don't know how to phrase this, but if you're having doubts or lacks or whatever, not to really draw on that, because it makes the person, I think, more so withdraw from certain things. And if you're pushing them too much, they're going to withdraw more. And, and that's maybe kind of been the case a few times, as far as our religion background.
Well, because I know for us, I don't know if this will relate, but we grew up more in like a Baptist Christian religion that was pretty strict in certain ways. And I think for us being in that silo of just seeing one perspective our whole lives, it's like, as we've grown and had different ideas or different thoughts, it can kind of be a bit like scary and jolting of like, no, this isn't what we were taught to be like, or we weren't taught to, have this perspective. And so I could definitely relate to that of like, as we've kind of learned more about ourselves or changed our mind or opinions in certain areas, there has been, at least for me, that knee-jerk response of wanting to be like, like this isn't what we're supposed to do, or this isn't right, or whatever, fill in the blank. And it's been so much easier to just be able to meet that with more acceptance, and like, it's okay that that's where, that my spouse is right now, and I don't have to change them or try to fix them or do anything. That's not my job to do that. My job is just to show up and be there, and not have judgment, I think, is the biggest thing. And that's hard to do sometimes.
It is. And I'm glad that you kind of brought that up, as far as like the area I'm at right now after my weight loss surgery. I've connected with more people outside my realm. Here in Utah, I think we're very sheltered, and like you, we have our, this is the way it should be. But it's opened my eyes a lot, and I become more accepting of certain things than what I have been in the past. And that to me is good, because I feel like I have really gained a lot of knowledge and a lot of love and compassion for areas that maybe I wouldn't have normally. And so I, not only has the weight loss, thing been good, it's been good to connect with many different people from many different backgrounds. And it just shows, you can just love everybody. It doesn't have to be just a certain, it's just hard. It's just hard, when you've been very sheltered and stuff. And so this has made me branch out more and really become accepting of everyone. And I've really grown from it, away from that stigma,
I relate so much to that too, because when, having weight loss surgery, that puts you into a community or a pool of people who have had that shared experience. But for a lot of the people that I've interacted with in the weight loss surgery community, that might be one of the only commonalities that we really have in our life, right? Like, we all come from such diverse backgrounds and different experiences. And it's cool to have such a big comment or such a life-changing shared experience with other people. And I think for me, it's helped to see people and interact with people that I normally wouldn't, because of like how I grew up and the people that were more in my internal circle. And
Mm-hmm.
it humanizes people. And it's like, oh, these issues, that in my religious upbringing, a lot of things against the LGBTQ community, a lot of things against just like different perspectives, honestly, outside of the church and the way that I grew up. Like it goes from those topics that don't have humans associated with them to humans that have experienced the backlash of that and going, oh, like, I don't
Yeah.
think that's how I can't imagine a God that would want it to be that way. And I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to assume what
Yeah.
God wants or doesn't want,
Yeah.
but it puts more humans associated with it, which has been really cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I've looked at it. It says Jesus said to love everyone. He didn't say just to love the white people or the black people or Chinese or, he said to love everyone, and
Mm-hmm.
don't matter their race, religion, sex. You know, I kind of push that aside and leave that as a thing. And I just view that person as a child of God. And that's where I'm going to leave it at. And I don't need to
Mm-hmm.
put them in any category other than that I just am going to love them. So,
Yeah.
so I think that's really opened my eyes a lot, as far as this journey goes. I've just met such wonderful people, like you say, from such diverse backgrounds, and they are so knowledgeable and
Mm-hmm.
really have brought me up, taught me a lot. And so, yeah, it's just been good for me, just really good for me.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm curious because this is something that I've just been in the process of exploring for myself, of like, religion and just kind of, piecing certain things together and unlearning certain things, relearning other things. But one thing that I have found that's left a huge imprint on me when it comes to more religion and how I grew up is this idea of conversion and how that has infiltrated so many other parts of my life, where I've felt so responsible to convert people to my religion. Number one is where it started, but number
Uh-huh.
two, that's bled into, converting people on that my way is the best way when it comes to how I'm eating, what I'm doing in my life, things like that. Can you relate to that
I
too?
totally relate to that. Yes.
What are your thoughts about that, kind of like, as you've been, meeting new people and kind of exploring things differently? Like, I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on that.
I've kind of got to the point now where it goes along as I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like there might be one religion that maybe encompasses a lot more, but I feel like we all bring something to the table. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just this is right, this is right. I think we're here all together in that. But I do want to say I have noticed, like, as far as like the eating, where you brought that up, it's hard for me, and I don't know why I'm like this, because I will say, oh, don't eat those things, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wait, no, I can't be saying that. That's not good culture. I need to be able to phrase it better, or I don't know. I notice it, like, with my kids, I'll say, oh, don't take your kids to McDonald's. That's horrible. Or, don't feed them this. They need to have really nutritious meals. But then I look back, and when I was feeding my children, I didn't, do that. And so I've really got to get out of the habit of telling people what's good and what's not. Adults, and they can make their own choices. And it's hard, though. It's hard not to say, maybe this would be better, or,
Mm-hmm.
try that. But
It
I don't
is
want
really,
people to do it to me, so I'm not going to try and do it to anyone else.
Yeah,
But
it is really hard. And that's one of the biggest things I've worked on in this last year is I know for me, and I'm going to assume this of you, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. But like for me, it's coming from a place of like genuine care and concern. And because I love
yes,
people, I'm
yes,
sure that's where it's coming from for you too.
yeah, it's
Eh,
coming from, I want them to have a healthy, long life. I want them to
Right.
feel good. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
And
not that I'm being mean. It's just I want them to feel the way that I feel.
right, right. No, I totally relate to that. And that's something, again, I think that's come from more of that programming of needing to convert people and having such a like
Mhm.
responsibility tied to that. And it's been so freeing. It was kind of scary at first, and then it's been really freeing to recognize that like we all have our own individual choice, and that's not a reflection of me, or we all get to make our own choice. And so one way that it's been helpful for me to, instead of kind of, digging my nose into other people's business, which is something I've been very good at in the past, it's just recognizing that we're all different and different things work for different people. And I ask myself this a lot, like, who am I to like say what's best for that person? I don't know. I only know what's best for me. And so that's what I try to always say is like, this is what's worked for me, or this is what's helpful for me. It may or may not be helpful for you. Like, I don't know. And letting go of that control, or that
Mhm.
idea, or that idea of control, or that idea of like, oh yeah, I know what's best for everybody, has been so freeing to not like wear that responsibility anymore. It's been so nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I think, it's hard because as a mother, I kind of feel I feel like I've been a helicopter mom, a
Mhm.
lot, and there's reasons for that, and I care deeply for my children, and so you kind of do what you feel like you have to do in the moment, but it would be freeing not to have that feel like you have to have control over certain situations.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to just let things go and realize I cannot fix every situation. And
Yeah.
so
And it's
where
hard.
I'm at right now.
It's so hard. I had a friend, actually, she was on a podcast episode and where we talked about parenting. And I really respect and value her as a person. And as a parent, she has 3 kiddos and different ages. But she was saying that what's helped her in that realm when it comes to parenting is, she said, I've always felt like these kids are not mine. God just put me to be their guardians and to be the person that supports them the best that I can. But even their choices, they're not reflective of who I am. They're their own individual people. And I can do all I can to help support them. But at the end of the day, just like I want free choice, to make my own decision, that's what they deserve as well. And so it's going to be, things that I don't always agree with or understand, but I wasn't put on this earth to have control or dominion over them. I was put on this earth just to help guide them. And I thought that was just
Yeah.
such a cool perspective to have, because I'm not a parent yet, but I can imagine that desire to want to protect your kids, keep them safe, and feeling like you have more control than you probably do. Like that would just be really hard.
It is really hard. And I think you just kind of hit it, we're here to guide them and direct them, not to control them. And everyone has freedom of choice, and put the best situation that you can, put the best prospects in front of them and choices, and then it's a little bit easier for them to make the correct choices, and if there's correct choices, but things that will help them grow and achieve the things that they want to do.
Story Start is an online, self-paced course bundle that has over an hour of high-quality videos and an 18-page workbook that covers how to gather your goals and find your why behind sharing your story, share your story on short-form and long-form platforms, how to launch your story, and how to create a sustainable business while sharing your story. This is the course bundle I wish I would have had when launching into sharing my story publicly. Whether you're sharing your story story to a large audience, or just want to piece together your story for yourself, this course bundle will help you do this. Visit stan.store/growwithshay to get this self-paced course bundle today.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you'll realize it's just a different realm when it's your children and you have that beautiful baby that you want to protect forever, and they get a little feisty when they get older.
Yeah. Well, I just respect and value how you're always open and humble to grow and learn new things. And I think that's the biggest ticket with any of this stuff is we don't have to be perfect at it. We just have to be willing to listen and learn and know that we don't know everything. And that's something I've always really admired about you. I think that's really cool.
Thank you. Yes, I try to be very kind and accepting and loving of every situation, and might not always turn out that way, but that's my intent, is to be that way. And basically whatever's going to happen is going to happen, so you just got to go with the flow, and there's just not much you can do for it,
Yeah.
So
where do you think that comes from for you, that desire to keep learning and growing? Because I know a lot of people who, they get to retirement or 60 years old or whatever, and they're like, I'm good. Like, I've kind of lived my life. Like there's not really much for me to learn. I'm just going to keep moving and doing what I've always done. Like why is that different for you, do you think?
The world is our universe, and we definitely, I don't know everything. I'm far from it. And I feel like there's always an opportunity to learn something or to benefit from lots of different situations. I learned so much from watching you and all the podcasts, that are out there. My gosh, just, and it's not that we're high. I think your education is a lot higher than mine, but I watch people who hardly have any education, and yet they bring so much to the table. They have so much wisdom, and I just think that we're never too old to learn. I'm hoping that the day that I die, that I'm still being taught and I'm learning new things. And I think it's opened my eyes to a lot more things than when I was younger. I just didn't have a lot of opportunity for many things, and now I'm open to anything. I'm open to learn many things, and it goes back to just being on Instagram and following the people that I have. There's diversity, and everybody just brings so much light and knowledge into my life. And I look at some of the things they say and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, that makes sense. And then I'll research, and it just makes it so much nicer to know all these things. It's just crazy that this Instagram, has brought me to so much knowledge, things that I would never, ever have.
Yeah, it's wild. And it took making the decision to have weight loss surgery. And that's why, it's so wild to me that one decision is the reason you and I are here right now, the reason that,
Exactly.
There's so many other people that we've connected with. And that's why just with my platform, I've really wanted to keep it open. And a lot of bariatric surgery naturally falls into that. But we're so much more than just the experiences we've had. You're so much more than bariatric surgery, than being a grandma. You have so much of who you are, and that's the stuff that helps all of us learn and grow, is hearing each other's stories and learning from each other and being open to that. What advice would you give to someone who maybe is in their 60s and they're kind of maybe at the point of like, oh, I don't know that I have much more to learn, or I don't know if it's worth it for me to make new friends or have new connections with people? What advice would you have for people like that?
Boy, that's a tough one, but I would say to just get out there and meet new people, try new things. There's so many, things right now that we didn't have, when I was younger. Pickleball, we'll use that as an example. That's something new, and it's fun. And how many, I mean, there's going to be in the cornhole, and there's going to be people out there who do these things that you probably have something way in common with. But if you're not willing to let go and experience that, you're never going to meet these people. And I deeply feel that there are people put in our place for a reason. I've said this for so many years. I'll give you a little backstory, and it's a little bit long, and I may get emotional. So
that's okay. I cry all the time. All emotions are welcome here.
I'm a crier. Exactly. That's what our shirt says. All
That's
emotions
right.
are welcome. I had a daughter. It was my very last daughter. She was my second to the last child. And when she was born, we could tell something was wrong, but we didn't know what. She just wouldn't gain weight. She got really ill. At 2 weeks, we took her in for her 2-week checkup, and our doctor said, I want you to go to the hospital and get some blood work done and stay at the hospital until I get word. I'm going to put these on stat. And so we did. And he called me and he said, I want you to get to this doctor right away. Eventually, after about 7 weeks being at the Children's Hospital in Salt Lake City, they pinpointed what her problem was. And she had a condition called biliary atresia. And what it is a hardening of the liver, or cirrhosis of the liver. They don't know that it's usually a virus carried by the mother that's carried to the child or given to the child. And I did have chickenpox when I was pregnant with her. I didn't have them as a child, and so I got them when my kids all got chickenpox. Mom got chickenpox, and I just happened to be pregnant with her. And so they kind of feel like that was the reason for her. Now, the doctor at Primary Children's knew that liver transplants were something that was coming of age at that time. Now, you got to remember, this is in 1985. So things like this were in the medical field were really new. That particular doctor told us to take her home and love her for as long as we had her. And that was not acceptable to me. And I left that conference room that we had it with several doctors, and my sister-in-law was there, my husband. I needed somebody that kind of, was there to help me pick through things and understand things. And so there was another doctor in there who was her main liver doctor. She wasn't a surgeon, and she pulled us back and she said, there are more options. We can do liver transplants now, and have been very successful with them. And she says, I just happened to go to school with 2 doctors who had started a program in Nebraska. And so we went to Nebraska to see if she qualified for liver transplant, and she did. And she was on the waiting list for about, I'm going to say it was close to 8 months. Now, when we got there, I had forgotten some items of clothing that I needed. And so I reached out to a church member who was called our bishop, the bishop back there over the ward. And I said, would you happen to know anyone that would carry this size clothing, because I need this article of clothing. And he says, yeah, he says, I think I do know a couple of ladies. Well, there was 2 ladies in that area that belonged to our church who were single. And when they found out I was from Utah and far away from home, trying to get our daughter better after this liver transplant, they became really good friends. And we kept in contact thereafter. Well, my brother-in-law, who was my husband's older brother, got divorced about a year before I met this lady. And she decided she wanted to come to Utah to live. And I says, oh, great. I says, why don't you come out? And I says, and we'll have dinner when you get here. And I got the impression, very strong impression, to invite my brother-in-law. Well, those 2 hit it off like no other. and eventually got married, and they've been married for a good 30 some odd years now.
Wow.
And I honestly feel like, even though it was really hard to go through that experience, and my daughter had to go through many health problems for that, I honestly feel that I would not have met this person otherwise. And been there for her to be my sister-in-law. And we became very good friends and we're really close. And I honestly feel like even though it was a bad situation, it turned into a good thing and for a person that I was supposed to be. And there's been many times where in my life, situations that I thought, why do we have to do this? And I don't think it's the why. I think it's the reason is because of the who, and who we're supposed to meet and who brings something special to us that we have to learn from and grow from. And that's kind of where I'm at in this journey with my weight loss. I'm not so sure that years ago when I started researching it, that it was the right time. But I think my mind is more open and my heart is more open to be more receptive of certain things. And I think this is my time and season to be able to meet the people that I've met and to fully love them and just enjoy getting to know them.
What a beautiful story. And that really resonates with me because I will get emotional. I can feel it bubbling up, but I've just been in such awe of that, where a lot of these things that I've struggled with with my weight, with not being able to conceive children, before, having those fertility struggles, and they were things that in the moment and still, have brought so much pain and sadness. And I mean, I can't even imagine with the situation you said with your daughter, having all of that happen. But in those moments, it's so confusing of like, why is this happening? There's no good reason why this should be happening. And I love what you said about that, though. It's not always about the why, it's about the who. And man, like I can't think of organic ways that I would have met you. I would have met like all these people that I've come in contact with without this one stinking decision of having bariatric surgery. Like, how would our paths have crossed? Not saying it would have been impossible or like it couldn't have happened, but I just don't see a way of where it could have.
I don't either, given our, like where you're located, where I'm located. I don't go to Oregon that much. I think I've been there twice. And the chances of us meeting, totally off. But I also want you to know I'm very proud to watch your journey with the fertility. And I'm glad that you do say fertility, because I honestly don't think that it is an infertility problem. But my youngest son and his wife, they've been married, I want to say going on 10 years, and they've not been able to conceive children. And they adopted embryos. I don't know if I talked. It's the same process as adopting children. Yep. It's very intense. I mean, they really have to go through a lot in selecting, the family that they want to adopt the embryos from, and for that family to choose them. And they're on their last embryo now, and they've still not been successful, and it's been very hard. And so I really have very much empathy with you going through this, and just can't wait to meet you and give you the biggest hug. Kind of feel like you're one of my kids too. I just have gotten to love you and to really admire you, and for how you handle things. And you could be one of my daughters, and I just love you like one. And
thank you. I fully accept it. I accept you as my adopted mom. I love it.
I'll take it. I can handle having a few more children in my realm. So we'll just pull you right in.
Oh, I'll be praying for your son and you said it's son and daughter-in-law, right?
It's my son and daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
And they're just a beautiful couple, just as you and Dylan are. And any child that would come to them and to you guys would just have the best parents. And I just hope that it happens.
Yeah.
For both you and for them.
Thank you. Me too. One book that has been really helpful for me. And I don't read a whole lot. So to have a book that I've actually finished all the way through where my ADD hasn't distracted me, it says a lot about the book. But it's called Spirit Babies. It was so interesting and helpful for me. Again, it's a different perspective, one that I had never heard before. And coming from the religious background I came from, I think it was the right time for me to read it, because it was a season of like just exploring and having more of an open mind of things than I probably would have in the past. But it's essentially about this person who, instead of talking with people who have like passed on, like people, some people have that ability, he talks with people that have yet to come. And so he calls them the spirit babies. And he talks about these different couples he's worked with over the years. And it gave me such peace of like, I think for so long, when it comes to fertility, it's so easy to blame yourself, blame your partner, of thinking that you have all this control in something that you really don't have any control in, really. And this book just really painted it in that way of, it's not just about me and Dylan being ready, it's about the baby being ready. For the person is
ready.
Yeah, whoever the person is that's going to be entrusted with us, whether it's a baby that comes, through my physical body, or a baby that's through adoption, or whatever the case is, it has to be the right time. And I think before I just had a much more egocentric kind of perspective of thinking like, oh, like, well, I'm ready. Why can't it happen now? Like, this is, I don't understand why it can't happen now if I'm ready. But it could be that the time in the world isn't ready, for this person to come in, that person isn't ready. And it also made me think of too, I think that's so neat. They're looking into embryo, or that they're pursuing embryo adoption. I've had a few friends that have gone through the IVF process and have talked about, actually, I don't know what the proper term for this would be, but that they have embryos that they're looking to have other families adopt. Mm-hmm. But I think of one of my dear friends who has been really open about her experience with adoption. And it's like, she struggled so much with fertility and all of that, and it led her to adopting her daughter. And I just can't imagine her daughter not being here with her, or like, if all of that wouldn't have happened, it's like, I just can't imagine a world where her daughter wasn't her daughter, and so I'm always cautious of, I never want to silver line things for people, because man, stuff like that is so challenging and it's so hard.
It is.
But it's amazing how things have turned out so much better for me than I could have ever planned, thinking that I knew what was best for me. It's like so much more was in store that I could have never thought of if these things hadn't lined up the way that they had. It's wild.
Yes. Yeah. It's good that you've opened up and seen that. I think that world puts like a stigma too. It's like they just think, oh, you'll get together, you'll have babies, the end. And that's just not for a lot of couples right now. And it seems like more and more now. That's just not the realm of it. And it's hard for anyone struggling with these fertility problems to realize, why can't it be me? And that's a very good perspective, is it's just maybe not the time for that spirit to come. And I feel like we're all supposed to come at a time when, I keep saying to myself, I'm sure glad that my spirit wasn't ready when the pilgrims came, or, back I couldn't live in that kind of a world. I like the luxuries, but then I think if we maybe didn't have the knowledge of it, we would miss it. But I'm glad that I was put in a place at the time that I was. And I think that we have to be open to that and realize everyone has their time and their season.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And as scary as that is, that we don't have any control over that, it's like, that's also what's given me the most comfort, funny enough, is that I don't have control over any of that. And I do feel very strong that me and my husband are meant to be parents. I feel like I've gotten a lot of confirmation spiritually in different ways for that, but it's nice not having to worry about it as much as I used to, of how old I'm going to be when I have kids, or, are we going to have affairs in our life, the way that we want them to be when it's time. And it's like, I don't want to worry about that anymore. It's going to happen when it needs to.
Yeah. It doesn't do you any good to worry about it, because you get these little wrinkly lines and those aren't good.
And we do live in a time with Botox now, so we can,
Yeah. I used to be totally against that, but the more wrinkles I get, I think, oh, that stuff sounds pretty good right now.
Right. I know.
I might have to look into it, but yeah.
I love it.
I look at my mom. My mom had wrinkles, but she had pretty wrinkles, and I have ugly wrinkles as well. But my mom, just gorgeous, beautiful wrinkles, and I think, God, why couldn't mine turned out like that? Just wrinkly everywhere. But anyway.
What has that process been like for you? Like, just with like aging and like kind of, seeing your body and your face, like everything just like change over time. What has that been like?
It has really been different. Being heavy most of my life, or pretty much my adult life, I didn't really have too many wrinkles, because you were filled out. But now that I'm losing the weight, and I think, oh gosh, I have cheekbones and I have collarbones, and and everything's kind of saggy now. But to be honest, I don't think I was deserving. I used to look at myself and I thought, I don't deserve to, have a beauty regimen, and I don't deserve to, I'm just not pretty enough. Is what I thought of myself. I wasn't pretty enough to deserve to use beauty products or facial products or something. So that was something I have not done. I mean, I wash my face morning and night, but that's as far as it went. I've never used moisturizers, and frankly, I probably am going to regret it. But,
well, honestly, with the research that's coming out, you're probably better than a lot of people, because they put so much stuff in beauty products that are so toxic, is what it's coming out to be. So you're actually probably doing better than most of us.
I hardly ever wore makeup. If it was mascara and a little bit of blush, and it's still kind of pretty much the same thing. If I'll put a little bit of eyeshadow on once in a while to go out. I'm not mainly because I never really learned how to put it on what I feel like correctly, and so I look at these people who have these blogs, with the beauty regimen and put on makeup, and I'm like, I could never do that. I wouldn't know how to even make it look good, but maybe I would. I don't know, but I feel like I've taken care of my skin. But as far as, and I'm a sun person. You've heard this. I like the sun. I'm a warm weather girl, and I didn't use sunscreen, and even forget now, even though I know it's important. And so I've got a lot of, freckles and age spots, and that's just because I've loved the sun. I like to be out on the beach and be out on sunny days. So, but it's just too late to worry about it now. So whatever is, and I'll just take it as it comes. But I've never been one to be too vain in my looks. And so maybe it hasn't bothered me as much as it may bother some. I just figure I am who I am, and if that's not the way people want me, then they're gonna have to figure it out themselves, because that's who I am.
Yeah.
So,
well, I love seeing people just being themselves and natural, and that's what's helped me so much with my own body image, and is just seeing people that have similar bodies to me, or just aren't afraid to show what they really look like. And I think that comes with aging too. Like I I'm haven't explored this as much because I'm still like younger, I suppose you could categorize me as, but I've started to notice a couple things, like, you know, when you were talking about the lines on your forehead, I'm getting like this scowl line in my like brow,
I have
you know?
the scowl line, and it's deep. And I think it's
Yes.
because I am a concentrator. And when I
Yes.
was at work, you know, before, and I was, you know, concentrated,
Yeah.
you know, I wrinkle. And so I got this very deep. But since I've been retired, I feel like it's relaxed a lot.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of it too is, I don't know if you can see, I have hooded eyelids, and I'm actually going to go have surgery on these here. So, but in order for me to open my eyes wide enough so I don't have, I have to really wrinkle my forehead. And so that's, you know, helped with that. But it also gives me horrible headaches because you're always trying to hold up your eye. So,
Right.
you know, I don't want people to think it's a vain thing or I'm doing it for beauty. I'm doing it so I can see, because my goodness, I didn't realize how bad I couldn't see things. And when I had the test the doctor gave me, I was like, oh dear, I didn't see half of that stuff. And she says, you didn't see more than half that stuff. And she says, you hardly seen any of the things I was doing. I'm like, I felt like I just failed a big test, you know, because I thought I was really on it, and I wasn't.
Well, so, even if you were getting that done and it wasn't to see better, it's still okay. Like, you know, like even if it was cosmetic for you, it would be okay too. You're worth it no matter what the reason is.
That's what I've decided. You know, everybody's their own person. If that's something they want, let them get it. You know? And just not right for me doesn't mean it's not right for someone else. So yeah.
But I think it's just cool. Like, I'm excited that more people are sharing who they truly are and when that comes to aging, because it's always been this huge push in the beauty industry of like, how do I look younger and stay younger? Just like it's been, you know, how do I get skinny? How do I stay skinny? How do I bounce back into that bikini body? Blah, blah, blah. And I think the more that we stand up and go, no, this is what aging looks like, and it's beautiful, and it should be something that's embraced. And you know, and if it helps you feel good to get surgery, just like, you know, with plastics or anything else, then great. And if it doesn't, then great, you know?
Yeah. Have you, I don't remember, I think it was in a National Geographic of the picture they showed up. I think she was 106 years old, and I can't remember what country she was from, but she was actually one of the most beautiful people I'd ever seen. At 106, she looked beautiful, and I thought to myself, what makes her beautiful? And I started looking at each line told a story, and her eyes told stories, and I was like, you know, you're getting to see the depth of that person, not just what's visible. You know, you really had to look inward, and she was just beautiful. I'll have to go find that picture again and send you information on it, because boy, she was just gorgeous. And I thought, here she is, 106 years old. So,
yeah. And I think that's part of it. It's like the more confidence that I've grown just within myself, of like, a lot of what I share and talk about is really stuff that I'm sharing almost to like my past self, of stuff that I wish I could have seen or would have seen when I was 15, 18, 22, like all these pivotal ages in my life. That's what I share. And the more confidence that I've grown in that, of doing this stuff for myself, I think that's really what exudes that beauty that you're talking about, of like, gosh, why is that person so beautiful? Or why is that person resonating with me? And I think it's when you know your worth and you're sharing it just because it just outflows and you can't help but share it. I think that's what brings beauty and more normalcy to where each of us are at in our journeys and our lives and in the different stages.
Definitely. Yeah, that's true. It sums it all up. Yeah.
Well, as we're kind of wrapping up on our time, if you had to look at yourself when you were a little kid, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever age stands out to you, what is one thing that you would tell little Michele?
To be happy, no matter what the situation. Find something good, find something happy, and don't worry about who calls you names. You know, the world is cruel. I don't know. I guess maybe I was a chunky little girl. I don't really remember. I didn't really start gaining weight until, you know, after I had my babies. But I thought of myself as big, you know, and I think I read too much into stuff. And don't assume you know what they're trying to bring across, but just be happy with yourself, be confident with yourself, and shush everybody away. You don't need to listen to what they say, because in the end their opinion doesn't matter. It's your opinion of you, and if you're confident and keep that, then you'll go far, and things will just roll off your back because you're worth it.
Oh, beautifully said. I love that. And where can our friends find you if they're like, I know all of them that are listening are like, this lady's so cool, I want to see more of her. Where can they go and find you?
Well, on Instagram, I'm Gas by Granny. And then I just started TikTok.
Nice.
And I think it's Michele 03 is what I think it is. I could be wrong, but
I'll make sure to link it.
I've only put on a couple of things, and I'm not too sure about, you know me, I'm not very tech savvy, and so I'm trying, but I think it will be a rewarding thing to go on that and, you know, to do some stories on there. I really enjoy watching the videos that I go on and watch on TikTok, and so hopefully someone can learn something from me, and if they can, great. And if I just bring a little sunshine into their day, that's great too. So yeah, so those are my platforms.
Awesome. Yeah, TikTok, it's a sharp learning, or it was a sharp learning curve, and honestly still is for me. I'm still learning it, but there are so many cool people on TikTok. I'm learning more super cool people.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Things that I see on there, I'm like, why didn't I think of, you know, something like that? Wow, that is so neat that they're doing that. And it makes me just admire so many people are doing so many good things in the world. It just, and opening your eyes up to all these good things. So yeah, TikTok will be fun, I think.
That's awesome. Well, anything else you want to leave our friends with? Any closing thoughts or anything else?
Just pursue your dreams. Get out there, and if you have a dream and you think it's unreachable, it never is. Do it. Just do whatever you can to make that possible for you, and just do it. I guess that's the main thing. Just do it. Let's say that.
Sponsor us, Nike.
Yeah. I was gonna say, is that Nike? I don't know. But our prophet in our church, that was one of his things too. That was one of his models. Just do it. And so, you know, I think it's a good thing.
Well, whether it's coming from Nike or a prophet or Michele, I think just do it. I like it. I'm going to stick with that. I like it.
All right. Sounds great.
Well, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.